Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okelo. I am the CEO and the founder of Madaraka Festival, and I am also the host of Madaraka Festival podcast. On today's episode, I am truly honored to host Dr. Julie Hsieh, who is an incredible leader, mother, and a candidate for Masa Island's City Council position 7. We are going to talk about Julie's story. We are going to talk about her career as an artist, a visual artist, as a singer, as a doctor, as an entrepreneur, but also as a candidate for Masa Island's City Council position 7. Why is she passionate about this, Julie, I would love for you to just add a little, to the introduction about you. I just want to make sure I give you all your flowers. I'm really grateful for the time that you created for us to have this conversation today.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Simon, for this opportunity. I'm grateful to you.
Of course.
to let me have this chance to share my story.
Yeah.
Where would you like me to start? I was born in Taiwan, and I moved to the U.S. when I was 6 years old. At that age, coming to the U.S., I was in the middle of first grade, and at that moment, I was just focusing on, learning to speak English, getting to know this new country, and, getting used to being in the U.S. And actually, I was in Dallas, Texas, growing up in Dallas, Texas.
So you came from Taiwan to Dallas, Texas.
How old were you at
the age of 6?
Yes.
Well, can you take us back to Taiwan? Just share with us some of the colors, the sounds, the foods that you grew up in Taiwan.
Oh, yeah. So, Taiwan is a very special place. If people have ever been there, they'll say, oh, it's, everyone's so friendly. The food is amazing. Yeah. Din Tai Fung is originally from Taiwan. So the original Din Tai Fung is in Taipei.
Yeah.
And
what is the Din Tai Fung?
Din Tai Fung. Yeah. So there's a branch in Bellevue.
Yeah.
So you should check it out.
Okay.
I'll take you there.
I would love that.
The really delicious xiaolongbao, the soup dumplings.
Yeah.
So, Taiwan is well known for its food and also for boba. I mean, I'm sure you've had
boba
a boba milk tea. Yeah, so that's originally from Taiwan. Yeah.
Oh.
And also Taiwan is well known for just the friendliness of the people there. So, people who visit Taiwan, they always tell me, wow, the people are so nice. And I grew up in that environment where, everyone treats each other like family.
Yeah.
I was there from age up until age 6, and then we moved to Dallas.
Right.
And so we immigrated to the U.S. and when I was age of 6 with my mom, my dad, and my sister. And we had an uncle in Dallas. So I think that's why we went there. And so Dallas, I was there through elementary school, and then, later went to a private school. And I was actually really shy growing up because of, at first the language barrier, and then just later, just still trying to find myself. But what really, I think, made me open up was I found my love for music.
Right. So
I joined the choir when I was in middle school. And then later on in high school, I started taking private voice lessons. So, when you're doing vocal performance, you have to be on stage and perform in front of a lot of people. So that really helped me to come out of my shell. So I was performing songs like from Carmen, Habanera, Seguidilla. I can pretty much sing those anytime because, I've been performing those pieces since I was in high school. And it just really brought me out of my shell and just kind of really connected with that artistic side of me. So in fact, I wanted to become an opera singer.
Yeah.
So that was my first dream. I was like, I'm going to become an opera singer, because it really helped, my singing helped me to find myself again and bring me out of that shell. And, music is about connecting with others,
True.
Just from your singing, your music and the art is a way to connect with people very organically and naturally.
Right.
So people, listen to you sing or listen to your music, look at your artwork, and they feel like they know you.
Right.
So, that kind of started, I think, just just the start of this feeling that, this is such a wonderful way to connect with people, and I'm interested in connecting with others, so I think just back from high school, I had that feeling that, wow, this is such a nice way to connect with the community is through my voice, through my singing. But a lot of Asian parents like their kids to become doctors or lawyers.
True. So, like African parents too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents would like their kids to become doctors and lawyers and have a successful career.
Yeah.
And so then actually I was 18 years old and I'm the oldest of 3 girls. So I thought, okay, I'll listen to my parents. So I got into Stanford, and I was pre-med there. I was a human biology major, but I still continued my singing.
Right.
So I took voice lessons in the music department. I had a senior voice recital. I was involved in the musicals, and I joined the Stanford Savoyard group, which did operettas by Gilbert and Sullivan. So, music was still like a big part of my life, even as I was pursuing, becoming a doctor. And, it's not an easy path, being pre-med. Organic chemistry, general chemistry, takes a lot of commitment and a lot of hours studying, and it almost became like a self-challenge to myself because I knew how hard it was because I was seeing classmates dropping out of being pre-med, and I was like, no, I'm going to do this. It's a challenge to myself. So what started as my mom or parents saying, oh, maybe you should become a doctor, it became something that I was really focused on and wanted to pursue and become a doctor. So after Stanford, then I went to Baylor College of Medicine.
How was it, by the way, being an immigrant studying in Stanford? Did you see so many people like you?
Oh, yeah. Stanford, what attracted me to Stanford was that it was a very diverse student body. And, I loved when I visited the campus. I mean, the campus is absolutely beautiful, like going down Palm Drive and you see the Memorial Church. And it's just, every time I go back there, it just absolutely mesmerizes me just how beautiful the campus is. Yeah. And then, you see the students out and about, they're studying on the lawn, they're, just hanging out together. And I just saw it doesn't matter what your background is. Right. They were all just, studying together, hanging out together. And I just love that about Stanford. And this was back in, I started at Stanford in 1994. Okay. So, and I just loved that about Stanford. So that's why, I decided to go there when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go. Right. And, it's a top school, and it's been a great place, for me. And doing human biology is a multidisciplinary major. So you can kind of it's like a design your own major. So my focus at the time was on the psychosocial development of children. So at that time I thought, oh, maybe I'm becoming a pediatrician. So I want to focus on that area of concentration. But, Stanford allowed me, to just find myself again, who I am. As you're developing, when you're 18 to 22, it's a time in your life where you're trying to figure out, who you are, what your passions are. So, starting to become a doctor, continuing with my music, and just being like a well-rounded person. Right. Yeah.
But I love that. I love that. And then you where did you go from Stanford? And continue sharing with us your journey. How did where you went to school influence who you are now and who you are becoming? Because I want us to get to really why you're so passionate about community, because whether it's being a doctor, whether it's being a real estate investor, whether it's being an artist, a musician, it seems like everything you do, being an author, everything you do converges around community. So share a little bit more about your journey to where you are now and why you are running for the position of City Council for Massa Island, position 7.
Yeah, so after Stanford, I went to medical school at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, and that's very significant because I met my husband in Houston. So that's a very important part of my life because it was my fourth year in medical school, and I was, of course, studying very hard. And then as I was studying, and then something popped up on my computer screen. It was like Match.com.
Yeah, that's so funny.
So it was like, oh, what is this? I'm studying very hard, and this like Match.com pops up, and it's a profile of who became my husband, David.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, what is this? And then that was just the start of like social, like online dating, right? And this was like back in 2003. Yeah. So I was like, oh wait, no, sorry, it was 2001. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, what is going on here? And so I reached out to David. And so I think being in Houston was a very important part of my life because that's where I met my future husband.
Yeah.
So after that, I went to residency at UC Irvine in family medicine. And that was also a very significant part of my life because I really, really enjoyed the community at UC Irvine Family Medicine residency. I became the chief clinic resident. So basically, taking care of like the residents and the interns, as the clinic chief resident and helping them, through, being a resident is really hard. I mean, we were working a lot of hours, 80 hours a week. We were on call, 24 hours plus 6. So like sometimes, just 30 hours you're working straight. So it was a very challenging time, but I loved the community, the people who worked with me in the clinic. We worked in a clinic in Santa Ana. So it was helping an underserved population. I got pretty good at medical Spanish. Unfortunately, I took French in high school, but, I got pretty good at my medical Spanish.
How many languages do you speak? Because I know you speak Mandarin, English, a little bit of Spanish, French.
Yeah, French. So I took French in high school, and I speak Mandarin and English, and those are my main 3 languages. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's very hard to find an American who can speak more than one language. Except immigrants who speak multiple languages.
Yeah. So that was my time at UC Irvine. Just finishing up like my training. To become a full-fledged doctor, where I'm like out and practicing on my own. And I love California. But then after I graduated from residency, David and I got married. So he got a job at Microsoft, and he was a lawyer there. And so that's how we ended up in this area. And it's very different from California, but it's so beautiful. Like, just the nature. So then that's when I started my family medicine practice. So right out of residency, my parents were always entrepreneurs. So I kind of looked up to them and said, I'm going to start my own practice. So, I had a clinic that I started solo practice in family medicine in Bellevue. And I went from having no patients to having a lot of patients just over time. And I think, speaking some Mandarin really helped me as well to have some patients who are mainly Mandarin speaking. And, I had patients from Microsoft. I had, seeing people from like birth to elderly. So family medicine, you kind of see everybody. And that really, that was a time where, I think I really developed like my compassion and just it's a privilege, because people come to see you as a patient and you're their doctor, and they maybe tell you things that they don't tell other people. So, and I felt like, I'm taking care of these patients, and it seemed like I was doing a great job because they'll do reviews online and they always give me like great ratings. So I was like, I'm really thankful for this. But I feel like that was all I could do. Like when you're a family doctor, that's pretty much, especially in your own solo practice, that's pretty much all you can do with your time. And then during that time also, I gave birth to 2 beautiful kids, amazing kids. And, that's pretty much all I can do. That I didn't really feel that connected to the community. And at that time, we were living on Mercer Island. So it was about, from about 2008 to 2014, we were living on Mercer Island. So what happened in 2014? So after practicing for 7 years, and every 7 years they make doctors retake the board exam.
Right.
So, so I'm thinking, oh, wow, okay, I need to start getting ready for that. But then at the same time, I had this feeling like, I feel like there's something else I'm meant to do with my life and to help maybe even more people. And so I convinced my husband to move back to Taiwan.
Oh, wow.
And he's not Asian. He's from Brooklyn. And so it took me about a year to convince him. And we were making visits to Taiwan, and then we were trying to figure out, okay, where would we live? Where would the kids go to school? But we did. We made it to Taiwan, and I think there is the start of my, I guess, my second chapter of my life. As an artist, as someone who brings people together in the community. So there, I started. Painting. I opened my first art gallery in Taipei. I was hosting a bunch of events. My Mandarin got a lot better, because I left when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
So going back there as an adult, from 2014 to 2021, those 7 years, my Mandarin came back. I found myself again, as an artist. Because remember, I wanted to be an opera singer, right? And then, there's just many different forms of art. And visual art was something that, it's like, wow, this is almost like a new discovery, because I probably didn't paint anything since I was a child. And then I saw that art, connects with people in a way that's so direct and natural. I remember I was exhibiting, in Rome, Italy, it was like a 1 week exhibition, and it's almost like an artist residency at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Rome. And so for 1 week, all I did was I was an artist because I wear many different hats and I do many different things, but for 1 week that's all I did. And I was painting this piece. It was like ink on paper, this really large piece in this museum. The curator and the director of the museum converted like 4 of the exhibition rooms into an art studio, a glass art studio. So people can come and watch you paint and talk to you about your process. And then I have people, they said, I see you in your artwork. So these are like people I never met. They're like, Italian. They're like coming to see the exhibition, and they can see me like in the artworks. And I was like, wow, that's so deep and profound and meaningful, because it's like, they don't know me, but we had like, essentially through looking at my artwork, the barriers were gone, and that's like the feeling of connecting to other people, to the community. You can, like, art transcends boundaries, just like your music, it transcends boundaries. You can connect with people pretty instantly, through art, through music. That 7 years in Taiwan was amazing. I got to be back, where I was born, see my family, and just kind of develop like this second chapter of myself as an artist. But in 2021, we came back to this area to get our COVID shot.
Right.
Because we're in the middle of the pandemic.
Right. And
life happens, unexpected things. And at the time, there was no vaccines in Taiwan. We only had AZ, so AstraZeneca. And if you're healthy, if you're younger, then you're very low on the priority list. So I was just telling my husband, this is summer of 2021. If we go back to the Seattle area, we can just go Walgreens and get our shot the next day. So that's what we did. We came back, and then, in the middle of the pandemic, and then, just ended up, in fact, moving back here. So, our kids started to go to Lake Ridge Elementary. They were in the 3rd and 5th grade. This is the first year back to school in person after that year off. in fact, there's really nothing going on like that first year in school. And, until the end of the school year, there's Lion King. So Lion King at Lake Ridge, every year they do a musical, but they had stopped for like 2 years. And I signed up to chair that because I was like, well, that's what I do. I love music. And there was no one signing up because people were still just like rebounding, from the pandemic. I was like, I'm going to try to do that. And then, they said, well, it may or may not happen because we didn't have, any musicals for the last 2 years.
Yeah, man.
And then that was the first time I volunteered, in the school district. And then that just opened up like a lot more opportunities for me in the community because I met a lot of people. I met Allie and Aaron, through that, and they knew a lot of people. They invited me to, join like Picture Peers, and then also like, to join the PTA Council for Reflections Art Program. I started doing like IMS PTSA, the Orchestra Boosters, just doing a lot of volunteer work, in our school district. Yeah, and that really, and this is coming back here, not as a doctor, but as someone in the art field, right? So as an artist and as an art gallery owner, and which gave me the time to be able to put into the community. So after that, it's just like, wow, this is, again, I feel like another chapter in my life where I'm devoting my time and energy on building community.
Right.
Yeah. But at the same time, I did open an art gallery in Bellevue because I was like, okay, I still need that in my life to have this space and to bring people together through art. So after I set up the space in Bellevue, and, I would love to invite you to come visit.
It's still there. I would love to be there.
Yes, it's still there. And I've hosted a number of events for Mercer Island residents in my art gallery. So, we've held fundraisers there. We've had, artist exhibitions for Mercer Island artists. And so it's like, it's been a really lovely way to bring together community just at my art gallery.
I love that.
So we've had like, music performances there. Currently I have a really special solo exhibition of a local artist. Later on this month, I have a very special exhibition of Ukrainian art students. And this was curated by a lady from Mercer Island that, I met her through my gallery. So it's just, my art, my gallery, my countless hours of volunteering in our school district, has made me feel like this is such a special community, Mercer Island. I feel so connected. And in fact, the sense of belonging has been the strongest here, right on Mercer Island. Like, even more than when I was living in Taiwan, those 7 years, I feel like such a strong sense of belonging on Mercer Island. And it's a beautiful community. It's a small community, so you see people when you go to the QFC or to the Starbucks. And then, from the school district, then I branched out. I was invited to join the Rotary Club. And so I'm on the board there now. And it's just so great to meet people, beyond like in our schools, in our PTAs. And then I also recently joined the Farmers Market board. And we just had, our opening. Wow, yesterday.
This weekend, it was beautiful,
Were you there?
I came through.
Oh, you came through. So it was so beautiful because, we were so lucky with the perfect weather. And we had like so many vendors this year, 20 more than last year. So we had about 70 vendors. I think we count every half hour how many people come through. We had a total of more than 6,000 people come through the farmers market. And I just love...
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just love seeing like the sense of community there. Like just bring people together through art, through music, through the school volunteering, through events like the farmers market. And then there'll be like music in the park coming up. In the summer, there's a summer celebration. So I would love to see more of this, in our community to connect everybody. That's... as a family doctor, background in medicine, I want to take care like of all the islanders, and just reach out to them. even if some people don't agree with each other, but it's okay. You know, it's okay to have different opinions, right? That makes us human, and we're not all the same people.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I would love to hear your ideas.
Yeah.
And you know, I wish that everyone can treat each other with kindness and respect.
Yeah.
And just support each other, because we have a very, very special community. And and I love being this community. You know, I love being your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so fascinated by you. There's so many questions I want to ask as follow up to everything. I listened for a while.
Yes.
Share with me how you are managing to balance all these things that you're doing. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to get shit done, look for a busy person. You know?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, and I think what you're campaigning for, the political position, is perfect for you because you're already balancing so many things.
Yes.
But I just want you to share with our viewers today how you are able to balance so many multiple things, and also not just do them, but excel in them.
Yeah, well, yeah, wow, that was a lot of questions. I tried to get through all of them. Well, you know, I have been busy, and now I'm just another level. So now I'm just busier. So I feel like it's an extension of what I've already been doing, and just making more impact. So, you know, being able to reach more people. And that's meaningful to me, you know, like I said, you know, I want to try to help as many people as I can, you know, and, you know, on Mercer Island. And so balancing my time, you know, I think it's just something that I've been doing my whole life. You know, since high school, I worked really hard in high school, you know, to get to where I am today. And, you know, as a pre-med and learning to become a doctor, there's a lot that you have to balance in your life, you know, just to get through it, and to become successful at it. So it's something that I've been doing, I think, my whole life. And, you know, I think becoming a leader is a lifetime commitment to excellence and to doing your best, and also like collaborating with other people. And most importantly, just bring out the best in other people around you, you know. So, so just, it's something that I've been doing. Like, I don't really think about how I'm doing it. It's something that I just part of me is just like, you know, balancing different roles that I do, wearing the different hats. Maybe if I don't do it, I would feel bored. I don't know. You know?
I can totally relate. And I love it. That's why I was asking. But also talk to me about how you're handling disappointment, because looking at your career trajectory, you know, I'm sure you've dealt with so many disappointments and failures, and also the position you're pursuing. If you fail, I'm sure you already have tools to deal with it, you know. And many people almost get paralyzed when they don't get what they want, you know.
So this is, even though it's the first time that I'm running as the candidate, it's not the first campaign that I've been involved with. So actually, 2 years ago, my husband, David, he ran in the school board election 2 years ago. And essentially, I was his whole campaign team. Because we kind of jumped in there. And then people were like, kind of like, wait, why is David running and not Julie? I was like, well, I'm already doing a lot, right? And so I kind of volunteered my husband to do this, and he's very introverted, so he was kind of like, what? Are you sure? Funny. But, you know, I was like, hey, David, you know, you were running for school board when we were in Taipei. You know, my kids went to Taipei American School. So I thought maybe he had interest in doing this. And so, you know, so we did, you know, I pretty much, you know, helped him to run that campaign. And he didn't make it past the primary. So there was, you know, some disappointment there. But, you know, it's okay. You know, it's like, it's life. You learn, you know, from your experiences. And then I was also very involved with the school bond campaign that, you know, was very close. You know, we had a group of amazing movers and shakers, you know, from our community, trying to help to advocate for the school bond. And, that was really intense. So, it just finished because
I remember the campaign was everywhere.
It was everywhere. You saw Mercer Island, people are really into those lawn signs, right? So, you saw those signs everywhere. Vote yes, vote no. It's just there everywhere.
And sometimes I would see people at intersections with placards.
Yes, we were doing the sign waving. It's really kind of fun to be out there and just showing what you believe in. And and we believed in our schools and our students and our children, our community. But it was it was very close because we got to almost 57%. It was 56.59%, and in the state of Washington and state of Washington is one of 7 states to require a supermajority of 60% to pass any bond. So, we didn't quite make it there. And I know that my team, we, there are moments where we were very, very upset and, people crying and just wow, we worked so hard to try to push this through. But again, it was a great learning experience. We got to bond together as a team, and we got, many of us got great experience, like running a campaign. So I would like to say that I took that failure, disappointment, into momentum for my own campamping. And I was not expecting to run for city council. We had. At one point I considered maybe the school board because my husband ran in that, and I'm, very much into our schools and volunteering a lot. But we had 2 great candidates step up. I was like, oh, good, I will support them. I'll be on their campaign team. And then, later it seemed like people were looking for someone to run for city council. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's that's something I wasn't considering, but at least let me help find someone. So I was telling you. Or you may have heard the story about, so we went to Hsieh.
I read an article, I think a post on your website.
My website, okay.
No, it was your Instagram.
Instagram,
with pictures of drinks and a few friends.
Yes.
And you writing that was the place where the idea of you running as a candidate was birthed.
It's true. And this was literally Saturday right before filing week. So, my 2 friends and I were at a fundraiser for Denise Louis Foundation. And then at the fundraiser, we were still trying to figure out who would be a good candidate. So, the name Hill Harper came up. So we're like, and they're like, oh, yeah, he was running for U.S. Senate in Michigan. And, he owns Hsieh now on Mercer Island. And I was like, wait. Let's go and find him and ask him tonight. That's what we did.
Funny.
So after the fundraiser, which was at the Museum of Flight, we headed down to Hsieh together, the 3 of us. And then, we went there, and then it was a very busy night. And then, I talked to his employees at the bar, and I was like, oh, is your boss coming in tonight? And they were like, oh, yes, he was just here, but I think he's coming back. And oh, would you please let him know that, we have an idea for him, and we liked his opinion about it. And they're trying to figure out, okay, so who are you? And I'm like, well, actually, I don't know him personally, but we have mutual friends. So I think he did come back, and it was a really busy night. So he was helping, his staff serve everybody. And then eventually he came down and sat down with us, and we pitched this idea to him, would you run for city council? And he's like, no. He has higher aspirations. So, but then he looked at the 3 of us, and we just introduced ourselves briefly to him. And he's like, wait, why don't you guys run? Why don't you 3 run? And that's what happened. It landed on me.
I love it. Hsieh Gathering is a really important community gathering space. And Hill is really like an artist. It treats place like a canvas, and so it's really one of my favorite places in the world at the moment.
It's beautiful. I've been there several times. We had the magazine release event there. The Mercer Island City Lifestyle. They just hosted an event there, and he's on the cover of the magazine. I need to introduce you to Sharon and Chris, by the way. They should really meet you.
I would love that.
So that's pretty much where the idea was born. It was, it was probably the stars were aligned that night, and, everything. And then, the way I do things is like when I decide on something, I just jump in, I bolt out of the gate. I don't hesitate. I figure out what I need to do.
As you go.
Yeah, as I go. I just, I decided it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. So, I got my website together. I got my list of endorsements together. I got my campaign team together. And this is all like within that first week of filing week. So things were moving like very fast. I felt excited by the momentum and the support I was getting, and so now I'm on this journey.
Yeah. I love the passion. I love the passion. And then, so you did something at, recently, last week, I think you did something at the Crawl Space.
Yeah.
Speak about that.
I had this amazing campaign kickoff event at Crawl Space. Many, many thanks to Jason and Robin, the owners of Crawl Space, for hosting it. And it was incredible. I didn't know exactly how many people are coming because not everyone will RSVP to these kind of campaign events. I thought, maybe 20 people or so. It looked like RSVP. I think there were about 80 people who came. I mean, the place was packed, and I was just so overwhelmed and so grateful for the support from the community. It was really, really amazing. So Deputy Mayor Dave Rosenbaum introduced me, gave a really lovely speech about me. Also City Councilman Craig Reynolds spoke for me, and also former Mayor Benson Wong also introduced me at the event. Kathy McDonald, who I worked with very closely for the bond, also spoke on my behalf. And, it was just really a beautiful event. And I just love the energy and then, the feeling the support from the community. And, I want to win this because I see a lot of people wanting, me to win. So I want to win this for them.
I love it. So then how can people support you? If there's someone on Masa Island that does not know about you and really wants to help after watching this conversation, what actions can they take?
Well, you can go to my website. So it's julieformicity.org and has a lot of information, about my campaign. And then you can donate to my campaign. We're in the middle of fundraising. It's a bit of a marathon. There's no primary, thankfully. So it's a marathon until November 4th. And you can also add your name to my endorsement page. If you'd like to host like a meet and greet, I'm happy to talk to your friends about, my ideas for the city. And most importantly, I want to hear from you what matters to you in our city, because I think there's more that unify us than not. I think everyone wants to have, a high quality life on Mercer Island, a safe community, and, I think we all want the same things in our community, infrastructure that works, so I think we all want the same things. It doesn't matter left or right, whatever. I think everyone wants essentially a beautiful community that we can all be proud of. And I would love to hear what you think could make the city even better. So I've been out there talking to a lot of people, meeting people and asking them what can I do to help you? So it's kind of like, when I was a doctor, I asked them, how are you feeling? How can I help you? And then they tell me, and I try to solve it. So it's kind of a bit of an extension of that, except this is making a broader impact, is to help the residents of Mercer Island and to help and make impact on the city level. Yeah. So
I love that. I feel that for now, what I would say Masa Island needs is more leaders like you, so and more artists in leadership positions, more creatives in leadership positions, because the community, the population is currently led by young people. Masa Island used to be a community of older people, but now majority are becoming younger people, majority are even like our kids, are becoming the majority. And so it means their needs need to be met, and their needs need to be met through creative outlets, I feel that that's number one priority when it comes to taking care of young people, because if they're mentally stable, if they're physically fit, that's how they will enjoy their community. And then, we have other other things,
Yes.
Creating more opportunities for small-scale business owners,
Yes.
And things like that,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, we have a very important program on Mercer Island through the Mercer Island Youth and Family Services. So this program, which is part of the city, provides mental health counseling for the 6 schools in our school district. And it's so important, especially like post-COVID. I feel like people are still just recovering from that. And besides the counselors in school, it also provides counseling for our entire community. So for seniors. Also, they help with rent assistance and also combating food insecurity on our island. And they have, a number of senior programs. And and I have to say, like, seniors are a large part of our Mercer Island community. In fact, 75% of them vote. So, I love seniors. I almost went into geriatrics. That's and my grandma is 98 years old. Living in Taiwan. So I have a special place in my heart for seniors. I've met a number of them, and they're just so amazing. They've accomplished so much, and they're inspiring to me. So from students, to our parents, to the seniors, I want to help everybody. Okay? Yeah. So the Mercer Island Youth and Family Services is a program that we need to pay very special attention to, because that helps so many people. And also just because I've been involved in so many different organizations, on a board level and as volunteer, I've been involved in these different institutions on Mercer Island. That's just the heart of our island. And I love to see them connecting with each other and partnering with each other. So, recently you'll hear more about the Dragon Park, the Dean Children's Dragon Park. And that's where I took my kids.
Exactly what it is,
Yes. They have the dragon. And, I took my kids there when they were babies. And so, there's going to be a push to remodel that and to make it more accessible. So they had the city parks manager go to the elementary schools in our school district and talk to the children, talk to the students about what they would like to see. So I love to see that kind of partnership. The Rotary Club is also helping to fundraise, for this effort. So I love to see that collaboration between the different institutions on our island. I want to take care of our whole island and our island's ecosystem, and also the health of our islanders.
Yeah, I'm completely a big fan of yours, and
thank you.
I just adore you for the efforts you've made to make Mercer Island a place where everybody thrives. I've been producing Madaraka Festival for the last 11 years.
Wow!
And it's now the biggest music festival, from East Africa.
Yeah.
It started here in Seattle, and it supports the largest music development program in East Africa. Over 20,000 kids have graduated from it.
Wow.
It's happening August 30th this year at Pier 62.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put that down my calendar.
You have to be there.
Yes, I'm going to be there.
So I want you to do a quick promo video for that.
Okay.
Look at this camera. And just invite everybody who is watching to join us on August 30th at Pier 62.
Yes. Please come to the Madaraka Festival on October 30th.
August 30th.
Oh, August 30th. Oh, okay. Wow, it's coming up. So August 30th, Pier 62. Come join us at the Madaraka Festival.
Perfect. And also look at that camera and invite everybody who is watching to subscribe to Madaraka Festival on YouTube.
And please also subscribe to the Madaraka Festival on YouTube.
Perfect. Is there something I didn't ask that you want to share with us as we wrap up?
Oh, actually, I was thinking of a song when I was coming here today. Maybe I can sing a little bit.
I would love that. And then talk about the book that you brought me today.
Okay. Yes, I have this book. It's my art book. So I would love to give this to you as a present. It's just, it's pretty much a little bit about my life story, from when I changed from being a family doctor to an artist. Yeah, so please enjoy. It has some of my artwork. But the song that I was thinking on my way here, Hero by Mariah Carey.
Please, take it away.
There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, You don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with a chance to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. And when I feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you.
So beautiful. Thank you all for joining me for another episode of the Madaraka Festival podcast. My guest today was Dr. Julie Hsieh, and we talked about her incredible journey from Taiwan to Masa Island, where she's running as a candidate for position 7 for the City Council of Masa Island. Remember to subscribe and leave your comment down below with your feedback on today's conversation. Thank you so much. Peace.